So Sibonile, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership. Now, before we go into leadership, can you share with us, where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Hi, Nick. Thanks for having me. I'm from a city called Bulawayo, that is in Zimbabwe. That's where I grew up. And I went to a school called St. James. It's an Anglican school, a high school for girls, where I spent 6 years there. That's where my entire high school life was shaped. And growing up under an Anglican setting was quite interesting.
And what was your dream career as you grew up?
As a young girl, when I was still very young, like at primary school, initially I wanted to be a teacher. Then that changed. Then wanted to be an air hostess. When I was a teenager, I liked the glamour that came with the job. Then as I became more mature and I started becoming, exposed to lots of other options, I then wanted to become a lawyer because my dad was a lawyer, and the influence rubs onto you, and I ended up studying as a journalist. None of those things happened, but when I look at my life today, I think all those aspirations are embodied in my experience that I'm currently living.
Was there a certain inspiration, maybe a person or a story or a movie, something that inspired you as you grew up?
There were different people, but it wasn't people that were out of reach. It's people that I saw. I wasn't really starstruck by anybody, who was famous or who seemed to be living a certain type of life. It's people that I observed around me, and definitely I could say my father was one of them. He was one person that he was well read, always sought to improve himself through reading, through education. He never stopped studying, and that really had a great impact on me, and a positive one for that matter.
Now, you started your career in journalism. Can
Yes.
you tell us a little bit more about that first career journey or chapter?
It was a very interesting one. I think I ended up, doing journalism because I love to write. I'm a writer. I enjoy writing, and I landed in the right place. And there was no one that I knew that was a journalist. I didn't even know about the program that was being offered, and it was a very limited program where they could only take 40 people per year, and the students that came in for that program were actually from Southern Africa, so it was very competitive. And so for me, it was quite an honor to be accepted in that program. But as I started writing and I started, going for attachment, working with the media houses, I knew in my mind that, I don't want to be in the newsroom. I want to go corporate. But still, I wanted to experience that space, and hence I do what I do today in corporate affairs, dealing with media, because I still have that passion.
And I believe you won 2 awards in journalism.
Yes, I did. In that program, I won 2 awards. One for being the best feature writer for that class when we graduated, and the other one was for shorthand, which I wonder if it's going to be relevant, as we go ahead, because we are really becoming digital nowadays.
Yeah, but they say shorthand actually connects stronger with your mind.
It does.
And your memory.
It does. And when you look at what you've written in shorthand, I learned to write shorthand in 1997, and when I graduated in 1995, 95 to 97, and when I graduated in 97, I stopped. Didn't need to use shorthand, but I carried on in my private life, writing in shorthand, because it doesn't get out of your system. Even now, I can still write in shorthand. It's like riding a bicycle, I think. Once you learn it, it doesn't go away. Of course, I might not remember every little detail, but it's really still very strong.
So, Sibonile, where did you go from journalism?
So after journalism, I studied an honors degree in sociology. For a lot of people, that's a very strange combination, but for me, it isn't. I think as a journalist, you need to understand the way society operates, or if you are going to work with people, you must understand the things that intrigue people, the things that intrigue groups of people and why they behave the way they do. And part of the degree program also had a psychology element to it, understanding individuals. And for me, that really connects very well. If you're going to report or write about anything, you must understand the people or the society you're writing about. And just recently, I pursued a master's degree in marketing, and working for Unilever, that was just the cherry on top of the cake, because Unilever is very brand heavy, and you must understand marketing principles for you to be efficient in the organization. And I mean, even beyond Unilever, one needs to understand that brands really drive business, drive, people, consumers. And so for me, I'm quite happy that I took that route.
So you're combining journalism, zoology, and marketing.
Yes.
That's a unique combination.
Yeah, but it works for me.
And so currently you are the Corporate Affairs Director at Unilever.
Yes.
What does that encompass?
It's got a lot of things. Each time people ask me what I do, like on an average day, what I do, corporate affairs doesn't have an average day. You can shift from employee engagement, getting your employees excited about working for your brand or your company, to speaking to media, as I already mentioned to you, where media are always interested and keen to know, what is Unilever doing? What are your products? How are your products impacting communities? What's your latest offering? How is the business doing? What's your sustainability agenda? How is it tracking? To reputation management of the brand, because now more and more consumers are more demanding, more knowledgeable. They'll question things to the extent that they sometimes even use social media to express their satisfaction or dissatisfaction about what you're offering them. And it's within my duties to make sure that they are attended to. And then of course I mentioned sustainability. That's also another element of my role. Government relations, stakeholder engagement, the friends of the company, strategic relationships. That's what the job involves.
So it's almost a 24-hour job.
Yeah, it is. I always have to make sure my phone is fully charged. Yeah. And I'm always following what's happening in the social media space, because believe it or not, gone are the days where you would wait for a story to break, the following day when the newspaper is out. These days, news breaks even before you've put together a statement. Even sometimes, if you're not really, keeping track of what's going on, sometimes it breaks before you even know about things happening within your organization.
So, Sibo, would you say there was a turning point in your career, or maybe a number of turning points?
I think 2 turning points. My first one was with my previous employer, the German company, Lanxess. That exposed me to the global community of business. I got exposed to things that I didn't think existed within corporate. So understanding the power of being part of a global team, how enlightening it is, how it opens your mind to bigger things. I think oftentimes people who work within a certain setting, like you're working in country, you're exposed to a certain type of consumer or certain type of business, you're not exposed to what's happening out there in the bigger world. So when I was at Lanxess, I was one of 100 communications people globally, which the company has. And I was part of a team, an EMEA team, Europe, Middle East and Africa team, being the only one from the African continent, because Lanxess only had operations in South Africa in its African business. It never had, set up offices in any other country except South Africa. And I was quite fulfilled, to exchange case studies or exchange experiences from my market with colleagues from Brazil, India, because those countries had a lot of similarities. And some of my projects were actually adapted by colleagues to, fit into their own markets. And for me, that was mind-blowing. And being exposed to the world, traveling with journalists to different facilities of the Lanxess business, for example, going to the US, going to South America, in Brazil, going to Germany quite a lot, Belgium, the Netherlands, and just seeing how businesses are run across the world. One of the key takeouts for me, I thought South Africa was a very unionized country until I went to Belgium. The Belgians are at another level. So that for me was like, wow, you know, we stick to our bubble and think this is where everything starts and ends, and yet there's a big world out there. Yeah.
So that was the first turning point.
Yeah.
You mentioned two.
Yes. And then the second was joining a company like Unilever, a fast-moving consumer goods company. And it shifted my understanding of doing business. It shifted my understanding of understanding consumer needs, especially in the world that we live in today. I mentioned earlier that consumers are more demanding. They know they've got knowledge at their fingertips. So as organizations, we're really being put under pressure to make sure we deliver and do so in the right manner, which is the right thing to do. So joining Unilever, this company so big, it's in 190 countries across the world, employs 160,000 employees across the world, has over 400 brands across the world. And in South Africa, we've got about 49 of those brands. And big company, one that has a different approach to ways of working, from working agile, which I do. My entire team sits in Durban and I'm in Joburg, but we still connect. Understanding that an employee is first an individual and a human being and a family person before they are an employee. And the company works around that. And then the issue around, the point around our approach to sustainability. We're no longer doing CSR. A lot of companies will adopt, you know, a CSR approach in their attempts to impact communities. Whereas at Unilever was saying, yes, we must impact our communities. We must do good things. We must do good business with our communities. But it's not about handouts. It's not about, you know, a tick box exercise. It's about doing things that are sustainable, even way after you have interacted with these people. They should be able to still carry on after you've moved on as a company. So hence we talk about sustainability and not corporate social responsibility, you know. So that's the communities. And then you've got shareholders. You can't hide from the fact that we're a for-profit making organization. Shareholders need to see that money is coming in. And our approach to sustainability as Unilever is that we do good in our communities, get our communities to engage in sustainable activities, whilst at the same time being able to grow our business, finding ways to keep it viable. If I might give you an example, we've got a project through our Lifebuoy brand where we're encouraging children to wash their hands on 5 key occasions. We've also just launched a good breakfast campaign with our Rama brand, where we are talking about having a good breakfast every morning for our kids. Those two examples have a direct impact on the future of African countries, because in Africa, millions of children die every year as a result of preventable diseases like diarrhea. And what causes that? The failure to wash their hands, the behavioral thing. But if from an early age they're taught that washing your hands actually prevents diseases like that, we're saving lives through Lifebuoy. And guess what? When the schools get it, when the kids get it, and the parents get it, it bears dividends for the shareholder side of things, because more consumers now understand the social mission of the brand Lifebuoy and get their kids to wash their hands. And to get your kids to wash their hands, you have to buy a piece of soap. So it balances out. And then with Rama, of course, your child cannot perform well in class if they leave home in the morning without having eaten anything. They fall asleep, they are not active, their attention span is very limited. But through our Rama margarine brand, we were able to push the breakfast campaign and get the kids to go back to their parents and say to them, it's important for me to have a good breakfast every morning. And again, it means they're attentive, it means they're active, their attention span is increased, and that has a direct effect on how they perform in class. And obviously then if you perform well in class, you are set up for success in the future.
So Sibonile, what would you say is driving you today?
I'm driven by, I'm energized by a positive environment. That's what drives me, that's what excites me and drives me to wake up every morning. What is a positive environment? It's not just in the workplace, it's in my social space, it's in my family space, and being surrounded by positive people and identifying a need which I know I can fill or a gap which I know I can fill. So that really drives me a lot. Just this afternoon, I'll be going to the Parama Women's Academy, where we've got a group of young girls from university who we are mentoring as women in industry. And it's so fitting because it's in August, and August is Women's Month. So it's a good time to be doing this sort of thing. So those are the things that really get me excited and drive me every day.
Now, Sibonile, let's talk about the future of leadership. What does the future of leadership mean to you?
The future of leadership means investing in today's young people. I've just talked to you about a mentorship program. All of us that are experienced and that have walked the road must ensure that we pay back, because we are where we are, because somebody either gave their time or gave their money or their skills to us to share, for us to be able to learn from them, or to enable us to get an education or to be exposed to the things that we're exposed to. So for us to keep that going, we can't just look inward. We also need to look outward and pay it forward, and also, support those young people that are coming up behind us.
And what have you learned from your own journey that you consider most important for aspiring leaders?
Being connected to people that are within the space I desire to be in, and learning, not being afraid to ask, and getting out of your comfort zone. I always say, the comfort zone is a good place to be in because you're comfortable, nothing stresses you, but nothing grows in the comfort zone. You must get out, because that is where fear lies. And when you are afraid or unsure, that is where you grow. That is where you stretch yourself. So that's one thing that I think is important for anybody who wants to be somebody within, their area, or someone who wants to excel in whatever they're doing. Get out of your comfort zone.
Now, when you speak to youngsters, maybe even your kids, what do you tell them they should focus on to build a future-proof career?
I don't know if you saw one of my posts where on LinkedIn and Twitter, where I was saying companies are saying they need more digitally savvy people. Much as digital is not a comfortable space for some people, people need to explore and understand that digital is not going away. In fact, we will just move deeper into digital. So to future-proof yourself, to be able to be relevant within the next 5, 10, 15 years, get into that space where everybody is. But I must say, young people are really not so afraid of digital. Maybe those that are not using digital is because of lack of access, things like data being expensive, or not even being able to afford for the type of cell phones or computers that would enable them to be exposed to digital. So digital is just one of the examples I can give you to say, to future-proof yourself, just understand that the digital space ain't going away. As you know, one of the biggest brands for many years was Coca-Cola, like the most recognized and most valuable brand has been Coca-Cola for years. But recently, companies like Facebook, Apple have actually started taking that space because they're digitally driven. So that industry on its own is flourishing. So I think we all need to understand the power of technology now and in the future.
Now, Sibonile, talking about technology, in your mind, which are the key technologies that will be driving, maybe the tools that will be driving the leadership of the future?
Artificial intelligence. I think artificial intelligence is like one of those things that blow your mind, and you don't need warm bodies to get information. Companies can now get into a system or space where they can pull out information about their consumers, about their employees, about anything that they want to know. And research is the way of doing research and understanding your industry or doing your due diligence for any business has been transformed by artificial intelligence. And anyone who is in business or is planning to do business and has not embraced the power of artificial intelligence needs to really start looking in there and see what elements of artificial intelligence they can use.
Now, when it comes to social media, which social media platforms do you recommend your students, youngsters, they should learn, they should master, they should utilize?
For me, maybe it speaks to my age group, I don't know. But for me, what is important right now is a social media platform like LinkedIn. It's very clear cut about its agenda, what it's pushing. It's a platform where you can network with industry people or people who are experts in their areas of work. It's a place where you can learn about the business world, and that's where you find information from people that have walked the road in their different areas of expertise. And it's very clear-cut, straightforward for me. So LinkedIn for me is probably, I rate it number one for someone who wants to self-improve.
Okay. And Sibonile, can you maybe share with us a success story from your own leadership, where you helped somebody, you maybe mentored somebody, and they went on to achieve bigger things in their own life and in their own career?
I mainly mentor university students and a few graduates that are first-timers in the corporate world, like first job. I love working with those people because they're very green, they are expectant, they don't have stereotypes, their minds have not been influenced by any prior knowledge. So I love working with those young people. And yes, I have a few young people that when I look at them today, I'm so excited about what's going on in their lives. Some of them are at Unilever, having moved from one role to another. For me, that is like, wow, I love what I'm seeing. So there are quite a few of them, both male and female, that have been closely working with. Some I have never even met. Some I talk to on social media. They'll send me a random message in my inbox and say, I'm really inspired by what I see you doing. Thank you so much. I read this article that you posted, and it helped me to shift the way I'm approaching my everyday life in business. And that for me is fulfilling. So some I know, I've met personally, others I don't even know.
Now, when you mentor aspiring leaders, which role models do you recommend they should study, maybe learn from? Are there any role models that you reference to?
I don't reference any role models. All I say to them is find a good book, an author, that you will read their work quite often and follow what they say or do. Something that you feel, this resonates with my purpose, this resonates with me. I want to read stuff by so-and-so. That person, by spending time reading their work, they're literally influencing you, they're feeding your mind and, connecting with your purpose. And people will connect with different people. So as I was coming this morning, I was listening on radio. Today's Barack Obama's birthday, and Barack Obama has influenced a lot of people. And I'm sure now that he's no longer the American president, he's going to be writing stuff. And what we know about him is that he was an orator, well-spoken. If you are that kind of person who's got that purpose to say, I want to be able to impact people through the information that I share, through speech, then read about Barack Obama's work, read his books, he's going to inspire you. So I think it's about identifying people that you think you resonate with and finding material that will bring you closer to their minds, how they think, how they do things.
Now, Sibonile, last but not least, how can people connect with you? Where should they follow you?
I'm on Twitter. On Twitter, my Twitter handle is @Sibo, SIBO _Dube, DUBE. And it's the same handle on Instagram. And then on LinkedIn, my favorite, Sibonile Dube. That's my name there. And you will see with my title that I work for Unilever, Corporate Affairs Director. I think there are a few of us on LinkedIn with the same name, but you'll see me there. So yeah, that's where you find me.
You do stand out a lot on LinkedIn, and I must compliment you on your LinkedIn brand, because it comes across very powerfully.
Thank you.
And I think there's a lot to be learned from the way that you operate LinkedIn and that you conduct thought leadership on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
Now, the last thing, Sibonile, is there one thing that you would advise youngsters, aspiring leaders should learn and maybe implement in their own lives? If there was one thing, what would you tell them?
I'd tell them it's okay to make mistakes. A lot of young people think when you're in the corporate world, mistakes are not allowed. Mistakes do happen. That you should use a mistake as a learning curve. It's okay to make a mistake, but it's not okay to repeat it. Make a mistake and learn from it. Companies have made bad decisions. Companies come out and say, look, we made a bad decision or we've made a bad investment. That's a mistake. But they learn from them and know next time not to do it in the manner that they did it. And I realize that young people often beat themselves up. The self-esteem goes down when they've taken a wrong decision and they're reprimanded. It's a learning process. People are in the roles that they're in, be they CEOs or managing directors. It's not to say they've had clean records. Some of them have made big mistakes. And some of them have actually been fired in previous jobs because of mistakes, but it's a learning curve. And people must understand that making errors is part of growing.
Well, Sibonile, thank you so much.
Thanks.
You are definitely inspirational. You are influencing thousands, if possibly millions of people. And thank you for building the future.
Thanks, Nick. It was a pleasure talking to you.